happening, Hexico? We are back. We're back again for another episode, 2 times today. I did a stream earlier around 11 o'clock to go over a bunch of different yield opportunities, all the amazing stuff we have going on in the ecosystem as far as TBL. I mean, gosh, if you're feeling, oh, I don't know if this is the place for me, go back and watch the stream I did. It's like 30 minutes long or so. I did this morning. Watch that later, and that'll catch you up on all the exciting stuff and all the money, all the building, all the products, all the people that make this place truly special that don't always get all the attention. Sometimes we get caught up in there's a thing happening and all that. Every once in a while I like to nerd out, if you haven't noticed, and there's some cool stuff to be had if you know where to look. So anyways, very excited for the show today. Sorry we took so long to start, but me and Donovan are having a great conversation in the green room. I feel like I just met him at the Vegas tour, and we got to talk for a while there. I feel like we just picked up right where we left off as far as conversation and getting to know him and what he's about and all the fun stuff, and welcoming him into the community at such interesting times as well. So I'll get to chat in just a minute. See a lot of awesome people in there so far, but I want to bring Donovan in and talk to him a little bit, and then we'll get into it. Welcome to the show for the first time. I don't get to see this very often. Most people are repeat people many, many times, but welcome to the show for the first time. Donovan, DIY investing. How's it going, man?
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure. We had a great conversation in the green room. And that really goes to show that, I really like you as a person. When meeting you at the conference, well, it was actually in the after party was when I met you. And I was like, I had 3 or 4 people prior to that throughout like the one day that I was there, and everybody was like, you gotta talk to RHMax. You gotta talk to RHMax. And I was like, all right, I don't even know who that is, but I hope that he talks to me, because like that was my problem.
What the hell's an RHMax?
Yeah, I didn't know who anybody was, to be completely honest. And then I was like going out there without anybody with me. So I was like, man, I'm just gonna, wing it. And whoever I meet, I'm just gonna, talk to whoever wants to talk to me. And there were so many great people, but you were one of the people that, the most people reached out to me, were like, you definitely got to talk to him. And then when I finally was able to talk to you, I was like, yeah, this guy's definitely smart. He knows his stuff. So I appreciate you having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know I made that kind of impression. I was like, hey, there's a DIY investing guy. I got to go talk to him. Like he's at the party at the same time. Like this is a good opportunity to like go and introduce myself. So went over and that was, man, it was fun just being there, and again getting to meet you and a few other people some people I've met before, some local Hexicans that came there too. I got to hang out with and see it at the conference, and then it was just a really really good time, a really good place to just meet new people and hang out with people you've already met. And again, coming across you and just getting to dig into finding someone new who's a bigger presence than someone starting out. That's a really unique thing for a community. Like we don't get a lot of established people creating content coming over and be like, hey, I want to go full into this, or I'm super interested in this, or I want to really immerse myself. And that was what was special. And I was like, man, I got to meet this guy just to let him know, hey, here's at least bring my brand, bring my perspective. And I know it's I'm RHMaxy for his ideals and his products. I love them a lot because of that, and I think he's going to do a lot of good in the world. I'm a little bit different than some of the different Hexicans and people in the community and stuff too, but I want to introduce you to that kind of brand of things. And
for sure.
It seemed like a jive with what you like too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. I've met a lot of people, and everybody has a different perspective. Some people are pro PulseChain, and some people are more pro like Richard Hart only coins. Some people will be like, okay, well, I'll dabble further. And then there's people that are just only Hex, like Hex OGs straight and through, like die hard to the max. So it's always interesting to gather different perspectives from everybody, because overall I came because I sacrificed for PulseChain. And so that was just my introduction into this market, because like the thing is like, I didn't like Richard Hart before any of this. Like I knew who he was in the beginning, early stages. And I really did want to buy Hex, even though I didn't really know much. Like I was like, Richard Hart, there was a lot of like negative stigma around him. Like he was just, everybody was talking about him back in those days if you were a part of crypto. And so like you either loved him or hated him. And I didn't really know how to feel about him, but I really wanted to buy Hex, and I just couldn't because I didn't have any money. So I wanted to get in, and then it was like the whole, cycle takes off. I thought I got priced out, so I didn't want to really buy anything after that point. But then it was Richard Hart's whole marketing campaign came out. And then I was like, man, I really don't like this guy. This guy's for sure scamming people. Like this guy's definitely like out to get people. And so then I just kind of wrote the whole thing off. And then, I had a girlfriend that really got me into wanting to, well, she like basically begged me to sacrifice to PulseChain. So I did it. And I was like, yeah, I could see this thing taking off later down the line. It is a Richard Hart product. Regardless of my opinions of him, it was like, he did prove to really drive a lot of demand for Hex. So I was like, respect to that. So that's kind of how I got into things. And so like, seeing all of the different sides of people that got in at different points, whether you were like at the point of me getting in, or whether it was like, people like you that have been around for a long time, everybody has a different perspective to share. And that was kind of the beauty of going to the conference and talking with everybody is, you're able to learn a lot, and you're able to get a lot of like, I guess you could just say perspective that maybe you never would have ever received had you have not had the same conversations with some of these people. So, I always recommend anybody goes to these things. That was my first conference. I didn't really think about actually going to any of the other ones besides this one, just because like I'd already kind of like had a run in with the community and already met so many great people that it was like, this might be a really good opportunity to actually go to a conference and experience talking to some of these people, firsthand. So I think that really was a great opportunity, and everybody else should also jump on those if you do have the chance to do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's another one coming up, more in your neck of the woods in Utah pretty soon, and I think Vancouver right after that. So there's a lot more opportunities to meet people in real life, whether you're local or you just want to travel and hang out with people. I traveled obviously for Vegas, and I know a lot of people. Hexy Bastard was there. I mean, I assume from the other side of the pond.
That was his first time in America, actually. So yeah.
That's so crazy, man. Like I'm glad he didn't tell anyone he's there, because that was a pretty cool surprise. Because I first seen him at the party too. Like I didn't see him before or anything. I saw him at the party because I just got there, and then he didn't, he wasn't in all of his swag. I'm like, wait, this guy, like it was a really cool experience. But I love that just on the story too. You said you had a girlfriend that begged you to sacrifice for PulseChain, and just for a minute too. And of course, all the outrage marketing, like that was, I actually kind of miss it in a way. It was funny enough. Like it was at the time, even for me, I was like, oh, this is kind of cringe. I know he's doing it for a reason, but God, why every day I got to see this stuff over and over and over, and PP and all this other stuff. Like at the time I was like, oh man, okay. I know this is a necessary evil or whatever. It's like whatever you want to call it. But I'm like, oh man, that was actually kind of cool. Like in this one niche way. How would that ever happen with any other founder in crypto ever? Like, would that ever happen again? That was kind of historic.
Yeah. That's the thing, is like, it really was like the first of its kind. And he's kind of the first of his kind with a lot of things. Like when it comes to marketing, I have a lot of respect for Richard Hart when it comes to that. I don't agree with a lot of the things that he does. And like, I really like, he rubs me the wrong way a lot. And like, I'm just going to be straightforward when I say that. But like, truth be told, like, when it comes to marketing, like I really, I give all respect to him when it comes to that, because like that was what got me like even interested in Hex in the first place, was the way he did all of that, how he allowed like this long Bitcoin claim for everybody to claim their Hex, how this is the real Bitcoin, how Bitcoin's been, controlled by these people that have sold it out to big tech and all of this stuff. And so, I really did actually get behind that, and I saw the value in it, which is why I wanted to buy it. So, the whole thing with PulseChain, even like I saw what he was doing with that, and I was like, man, like it is smart. I don't know what'll even happen with these tokens, but like, I might as well throw something into it. And so like, I'm glad that she did actually just keep pushing that on me, because like it took me a couple days before I finally sacrificed. But like, at the end of the day, if it wasn't for that sacrifice, I never would have went back and looked at the charts of PulseChain and all this stuff when they were bottom at the very bottom of their cycles. And I never would have decided to make any charts and start talking about them. I never would have cared to do any of that. So like, I'm here for a reason, and there's like a bigger purpose in all of this. So, I mean, I'm thankful for all of it, regardless of how it happened.
Dude, I love that you bring that up, because so many people are like, why did I sacrifice? Like everyone who got sacrificed, like, they got screwed looking at the charts and stuff like that. And I've always talked about, I mean, it is, especially before everything went up again, it was hard to be like, well, if you didn't do it, then you wouldn't have skin in the game, and you wouldn't have hung around, and you wouldn't still be here, and you wouldn't still, be in what we believe, again, before and now, what I believe is the greatest, one of the greatest opportunities that's ever existed in this crypto, in this era. So it's always, before it was like, well, because you probably wouldn't still be here. You may be in another ecosystem, and you may miss out on future stuff. That's a lot of cool stuff that's happening. But for you, it sounds like it was like, I'm glad you're saying you're glad you sacrificed just because it made you, again, stick in, look at the charts, stay with it, do more research, and actually kind of give you the skin in the game to be like, all right, is there something I'm missing here, right? Like, is there something else that I didn't see before? Because I made an investment, so I'd like it to pay off. Maybe you got to spend a little extra time on this thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I mean, you got to look at everything from a bigger picture, because it's a little bit hard to do that, especially, I don't know, like for me, I've been in crypto for 8 years. So like I've had the time to get wrecked about 100 million times, to where like you're able to look at things from a third person perspective, and you're able to like, like contrast your own emotions and like biases, and then still allow yourself to see both perspectives. Because like, like even though you may have sacrificed and you may have gotten wrecked, and like you would have been down whatever percentage it was after the lawsuit or the SEC lawsuit thing happened. The way I look at it is like, I got hacked at the end of 2022, and I lost like a lot of money. I don't know. I think I like at that value of the end of the bear market, like 65 grand. What I wrote off was like 300 grand, because a lot of stuff I just bought and like had gone worthless in the bear market. But like, because of that happening, I had to restructure my portfolio. I had to like look at a different perspective, and like it caused me to like look in the market in ways that I wasn't going to before. And so like it's hard to see in the moment of getting hacked, like, oh my gosh, like my whole life is falling apart. But like it was actually a blessing in disguise happening, because like through that I was able to be early to like Arbitrum. I was able to be early to Optimism and Metis and some of these other things. And it allowed me to like maybe take a little bit more of a risk on approach in my portfolio, whereas I wasn't going to do it as much before. So in a way, I think that it also led me more towards wanting to be over here on PulseChain. So, oops.
Yeah, your camera took a break for a sec.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know what the heck happened to it. You guys just won't be able to see my beautiful face anymore, I guess.
I like the logo. The logo's nice. Oh, there it comes.
Yeah, but anyways, blessings in disguise. If you got wrecked in the sacrifice, like I think that things are going to look up for you, and like you got to look at it from like a blessing. Like I'm sure you learned a lot from it, and I'm sure that there's ways that like there's always positive takeaways in everything. And the more that you try and come away with like a lesson learned, rather than get hung up on the bull crap of like the negativity, like you're just going to move on from it. Like when I got hacked, like in the middle of getting hacked, I knew there was nothing I could do. So I prayed for the guy, because like I was like, man, at least I can feel better for myself and not have to like be like so like worried about everything, like all the turmoil. So the quicker, whatever way that is for you, the quicker that you can move on from stuff, the quicker that you can say, all right, this is a way that I can learn, the better off you're going to be, because no matter what, you're always going to be growing the whole time.
That's powerful, man. Yeah, I think, there's lots of different ways to, people say or do something negative towards you or otherwise. It's like, okay, what is their life like? What are they dealing with? Like, it's always, of course you shouldn't, let yourself get beat up, but at the same time, it's, some stuff you can change, some things you can't, and just accepting and moving on and just being like, well, maybe it's almost like, somebody steals something from you or whatever. Well, maybe they needed it more than I did. Like there's a certain thing to that. Like, obviously you can be taken advantage of, but at a certain point it's like, all right, there's nothing you can do about it. Then just wish them well, and hopefully they stop doing that and just go on, and hopefully you're not completely broken over that kind of thing.
Yeah, so. Exactly. I mean, there's only, you can either just like go at it positively, or you can let every single thing like, just kind of hinder your entire growth. But I mean, I've been that person that's been hung up by a million different things before, and like just constantly like is getting in your own way most of the time. And I've just learned the older that I've got that it's just much easier to just like, no matter how much it's not your fault and how much like it's the other person's fault, like you're the one getting screwed over and all of that stuff, it's still your fault. So like the more that you just accept that, like the better off you'll be, like regardless of the situation. Because it's all circumstantial, and perspective is everything. We can't really see the bigger perspective, we just see our own perspective. So I just think that you're better off just keep fighting forward.
Yeah, man. What do you think too? Just one more point on the sacrifice. I think it's important to bring out here. The having sacrificed, and then again, you got dollar for dollar amount, all that stuff. You got got the coins, and then price went up, and then price went down. A lot of people were holding for a long time, and the price was down. It's up now. At least Pulse is over SAC. PulseX touched SAC a couple weeks ago or so, and then Hex has its thing going on. Incentive went up harder, went down harder, all that stuff too. But just on the SAC phase, like, do you think people? One thing to again just broaden the perspective here of why did I sacrifice? Why didn't I just wait and buy it lower? Again, would you still be here had you not sacrificed and been aligned to pay attention and to see such deals, which you saw PulseX go down like almost 90% or so. You could have picked it up 9% down, and it's that's even at today's price, it's like a 5, 6, 7x. So do you think like that's the biggest thing to take away from God? Why did I do that PulseChain sacrifice? Why did I do that PulseX sacrifice? To make sure you're around if you wanted to pick up such dips. Like, is that the best thing to take from it?
Yeah, honestly, for sure. Like, I don't think that there's anything more you could take from it than that, because like for me, I know I would not be here. I never would have came over to make videos. And well, like the only reason I even came over here in the first place was because I had sacrificed. I had known that I had this money sitting on some random wallet I had somewhere. Went over one day to check out what the heck the charts were doing, was thinking about my girlfriend at the time, which we hadn't been talking for a long time. So then I was like, man, like, I hope she's all right. Like, I know how hard she went into all this stuff. And so then I was like kind of concerned for her at the same time. And so I like just happened to go over and look at the charts one day. And that was where I was like, oh man, these things look good. Like, these are bottom. These are about to break out. And it was one of the only ecosystems that kind of hadn't broken out yet. And so that was like why I was like, man, I'm going to make some charts about this. And so, yeah, like it was the only reason I even was over here wanting to make content, was because I had a little skin in the game. So, making my charts about the different markets, looking at PulseX, Pulse, and P-Hex, and even E-Hex at the time, and all of those, that was really where I was like, man, these kind of all look bottomed. They all look pretty much the same in price. Like, I think that they're all about to break out, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. So that was my introduction even to making content with other people. It was those charts that made people even want to bring me onto their streams. And so that gave me an opportunity to connect with people I never would have before. And then, I got to talk at the Hex conference. Then I got invited to go talk at the PulseChain tour. And so like doing all of this type of stuff, like it really has been, really awesome, because it's connected me in a lot of ways I never would have expected it to. And then to see the market kind of breaking out and following along with what I expected it to, that is also where you get like confirmation. It's like, oh, well, now everything's starting to follow along. And it's like, if you've been here and you sacrificed, and you didn't even have to actually like continue to buy into the bear market. Had you have done that, obviously that helped a lot. But even if you didn't, it doesn't really matter. Seeing the markets go up, it just gives you a lot of encouragement that, hey, maybe I wasn't actually wrong about this stuff. Maybe there is value behind this, and now we can actually watch as we're proven right about some of these things.
Wow, definitely. I love to hear this perspective again from someone you've been in the community 3 months, 3 or 4 months, or so?
3, 4 months, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to hear. Again, and by the way, do not anyone feel free to constructively criticize Richard Hart. Like I'm a maxi for his ideals. I believe he's doing a lot of amazing things in the world. I know he's not perfect. I've criticized him again in a constructive way plenty of times. I think the whole decentralization push was a great leap forward for decentralization as far as IPFS apps and stuff. A step back for onboarding. I built Go Real DeFi in response to that to like help in that, as a community effort to help people get access to the apps and easier for onboarding and information too. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I definitely try to take a rational approach and not some, cult-like following, which some people tend to ascribe. I believe they're probably less informed than they think when they do that kind of thing. But let's whispers. FUD, Richard Hart is perfect. Yeah, I think that's something that's really healthy. Again, it can go in a way that's like, all right, you're just shitting on the guy, you're just mad because the bag's down or whatever. It can go the other way of like, okay, well, we don't need every single thing he says is not written in the Bible. We don't got to follow it in order to get to heaven, all that stuff either. So I think there's a healthy medium, which I've tried to represent. I've tried to bring out the ideals that I like from them, and again, constructively criticize the other ones, because again, the community isn't one person. The community is a huge amount of people now. It is so much bigger with PulseChain, for better, for worse in certain ways. So, everyone's got the thing they're interested in. again, I'm interested in more of the core coins. I have people on. I've talked about different products and things I think are good and healthy for the blue chips. Things that have a positive feedback loop. I'm very selective with them, but this is not definitely, if you're new to the channel or whatever, you're not going to get like a hardcore RHMax if we're just going to talk about Richard all day. Like, I think having a broad scope and be able to actually have utility in the community is why I started streaming, why I started interacting in the first place. So it's less biblical and more rational optimism. I'll say it that way.
And I can appreciate that, because like you do get like the people just like idolizing Richard Hart to like this really weird point. And I don't like interacting with those people, because like they're just delusional more than they have, like you said, more than they have any value to offer. Like they're just like blindlessly like, I mean, like you can tell when you talk to somebody, and you can tell by what they tweet, like whether somebody has value to offer or whether somebody doesn't have value to offer. And for me, it's like very obvious to tell, who actually wants the community to grow, and like who is willing to like listen to maybe like a alternative perspective on things, because that's really where the only way we're all going to be able to get true adoption is with people like me coming over from other communities. I see how things are run from these other communities, and we try and bring them over here. Ultimately after coming here, we realize that there's so many different like areas where there needs to be like fixes for things. And, like it's people like you that have, these sort of indexes where we can go, like direct people to, and then actually like have this direct place where they know where to find things. Cause like a lot of the stuff isn't as easy to find as other chains. That it doesn't work. Like the block explorer doesn't work 90% of the time, if not more. Like there's certain areas that just definitely need fixed if we're going to have true like mainstream like adoption. And so that's really what I think is the biggest focus moving forward is, how can we ultimately like accept people that understand how things are run from these other places, and then allow them to basically, give their points. Because what I see is as people like me that have came over and have tried to like talk out against certain things, you just get bombarded with all of this crap. And it's just like, okay, well, at this point, is it even worth me saying anything? Like, cause I'm just going to get so much hate for it. For me, I can't help but keep like, I can't shut my mouth. Like I always have to say something. So like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to just hold my tongue. But regardless of all of that, I just think the big picture, the more that we can kind of open up towards these sort of things, like these other people trying to build things, regardless if it might be a little bit like against, some of your core. I mean, you can support from afar without necessarily supporting somebody you like don't agree with. And I think that the big thing is with PulseChain, you're going to have no choice but to accept all these other projects, because the only way that PulseX, PulseChain, Hex, and all of the other coins get any sort of like ink and whatnot, the only way they get adoption is if you have more people that are coming over to the chain and building, adding value, bringing more liquidity over here to drive values inside of those native core assets. So that should be the big focus is, being more positive, accepting some of these people, because, some of these people do have a lot of things to offer. And it's because this current community is so like tribalistic with like how things used to be, and like being a little bit off guard with how new people coming on, like just more or less looking at them as insiders or outsiders. I mean, the more that we can like encourage that, but then also keep the same original values that existed here, the better, because that, is the ultimate way to grow. Because things are destined to change. There's going to be people that come here that we don't agree with. And that's totally fine, because we're not going to always agree with everybody. But the more that we can like promote positivity and like growth and like help each other out as much as possible, I just think that that's the best way possible, where other people are going to say, hey, there's value over here too. Like we should probably come over here and build. We have this perfect idea for a project. Let's come plug it in over here on PulseChain. That's where I think true adoption can take place.
Yeah, I like that you hit on the point of just keeping the foundational values there, and like good, like the good principles the thing was built upon. The reason Hex exists for trustless yield, all that stuff. I mean, we popularized a lot of concepts, and we made Uniswap popular. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that line a million times, like all that stuff. And I think keeping that while we grow is difficult, but I think it's worthwhile doing. Like I don't want to. I've said this on stream a couple times already. It's like I don't want to lose their core principles that made this place so great, because then we just turn into something else. And it's not change for the sake of change isn't desire, like it's not a desirable thing. Like you want to change if it's for the better. And how can you change for the better if you lose if you lose the narrative, right, you lose the path in the first place.
Well, okay, so I don't mean to cut you off, but I do have a good question for you. I want to hear your perspective on like, so right now there's the big debate of like centralized exchanges and staying like decentralized. Because like I was like on this exact same sort of like fence myself, where it was like I thought, well, I love Hex and I love PulseChain and I love like the core coins over here, and like PulseChain in and of itself, because of the fact it is decentralized. Like it's one of the only really decentralized projects out there. And so that I loved that about it. And then I loved the community about it. And it was like those two things were the reason why I wanted to stick around. So as we're starting to see more people petitioning towards centralized exchange adoption, I wanted to hear your stance on all of that, because like this is where things are destined to start shifting. And, you know, I'm just curious to hear your perspective from somebody who has actually been here for a long time.
It's a good question. Yeah, I think what you're referencing is the initiative to get on like MEXC, for example, that's been going on, that a lot of builders and bigger people in the community have been supporting, and people, you know, have an opinion one way or another on. Yeah, just to lay it out. I think it's an interesting question. I think so. The way I think about it, again, first principles thinking, like why would that be? Why would we need to be on central exchanges? Like what benefit would it be? That kind of thing. So again, I even messed up the first time. We don't need to be central exchanges because there's DeFi and that's what we want to do. And it's amazing, all that stuff, right? But like, what is the benefit of being on decentralized exchange? If it's not necessary, what is the benefit to being on one? And I think the best argument for that would be all the sat sites will either list you properly or not in one way or another based on the volume from centralized exchanges. It seems to be the go-to argument for a reason to do such a thing. So, and then you have this whole thing of, okay, well, you know, why do we got to do it? Like, I know we're the community, but like, shouldn't the founders do it? What about all the SAC money? Like there's all these like different threads that go on with it too. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, being on centralized exchanges, in order to fix some of the metrics for the gatekeepers that we cannot convince in any other way, that we've tried to for years, that seems to have some merit. That seems like it would do more good than harm. Mm-hmm. And not just for onboarding, but literally just to fix the stats. Like forget about, again, people say, oh, MEXC is not available in the US. You know, what are we doing this for? All that stuff. That's like another thread. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if this will actually work, if it will work, if the benefit is we get more eyeballs on the product because it is ranked properly on site. So we have no other control. We can't just ask them to do it. Though we've been asking them for years to do it. Like they don't do anything. Right. You have to give them some data source that they're looking for, like that. You play that game if you want to be in that ballpark type of thing. So as a, you know, real DeFi, as a true DeFi place, it doesn't feel good to have to play certain games. At the same time, the benefit that comes from it, apparently a lot of people believe the benefit is worth it. A lot of people believe getting ranked properly in all these different ways, which again, fingers crossed, that actually works and we don't get screwed up in some other way. If that's the play versus, you know, trying to get people to do more centralized stuff versus decentralized, I don't think that's the play. I don't even think that'll happen that much. Once they come here, they'll be like, oh, I just need to click on the apps. I need MetaMask. We can teach them how to do stuff once they get here. We can't teach them how to do anything if they're not here. Mm-hmm. So that's the case I would lay out. I think there's a good case for it. Again, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think there's the benefits and what happens if it doesn't happen. And I guess I would ask you the other side of it then, if you want to put in some notes of like, what happens if we don't get centralized exchange listing? Do you think they'll make that big of impact of what the pro case is for it?
See, this is the tricky part, because I don't know the best way to navigate it. Like I came from the Bitcoin days of 2016, where it was like, you know, everything was like really pro decentralization first, like keep everything on chain, be anti-government, all of this stuff. And that was really why I loved Bitcoin. And so, it changed so much from that point that, you know, when ETH came onto scene, 2017 happened, things got really blown out of proportion. That was where a lot of stuff kind of like shifted in the market and things changed. And now you look at Bitcoin with the ETF and all of this stuff, and I don't look at that as like a positive thing necessarily, because now it's just becoming more aligned with how like the traditional world of finance works. And to me, like, I don't like Bitcoin because it's a public ledger that everybody can see. So it's like, you know, there's no like, if like the government knew my password or like knew my address, they would be able to see everything I ever did. So for those reasons, I don't really like it as much. And I would have always kind of petitioned towards being more like having your own privacy and like being totally on chain, because like the whole point of like getting away from the governments and getting away from corporations and all of this stuff was like through decentralization. So it's like, you know, I come from a crypto community way back when like the ideals were a little bit different. The way that people like looked at things were a little different. And most people didn't get into crypto until like after that point. And so because of that, most people like have a different perspective than I do around this stuff. Because like I came to PulseChain because it was kind of like the last frontier when it came to like true DeFi. I was like, man, all this stuff is bought out by VCs. All this stuff is, you know, like controlled by these people. This isn't even decentralized. This is, you know, this and that, all of that crap. And so it got to the point where I was like, man, this is kind of like the last frontier over here. And the community reminded me of the original Bitcoin community. And so I've been like against the centralized exchange listings. However, I understand your perspective and I understand why everybody wants them. And I do see like the need for it. Like I'm not 100% even against the idea. It's just that I love the core ideals of blockchain and I love the core ideals of like this community is what they are right now. And I know that it's set to change a lot because that's what happens to all of them. But I ride that fine line of like, how can we keep the ideals while like bringing in this adoption? So that I don't know the best way to go about doing that, but I think it's a really important conversation to talk about because it's really why I came over to PulseChain in the first place. So like, we're kind of seeing like the beginning stages of like where things are going to start shifting. And if we're not careful and if we don't like have open conversations about things, like it could shift in a way that we don't actually want it to. However, if we have these conversations, it can also, you know, be a very positive thing. You know, keep PulseX off of centralized exchanges so it actually works. And, you know, we can put Pulse and stuff over there, but maybe even Hex. But at the end of the day, like, I think that the big thing is like, you know, we things on chain should stay like true DeFi is on chain. So the more that you're tapping into some of these places, the less that you're staying like the more that you're aligning with like the traditional world, and then the less that you're sticking with those true like decentralized morals, I guess you should say. So like, you know, it's a conversation that we can have. It's just like, how do we actually navigate it? I don't know.
I mean, for me personally, just thinking about like, does a centralized exchange listing, whether it's Mexi or whether it's Binance or like any exchange, does that weaken the value prop of PulseChain and being able to hold your own keys and use, you know, DeFi apps and stuff like that? To me, I mean, I don't. For me personally, it doesn't change anything. Like, but it's like, okay, if I think of me personally versus everyone else out there, it's like, I guess the question is, will they be tempted to use more centralized products, or will they get confused about the DeFi revolution that we're spearheading here by having it listed? I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of evidence in that direction either. So I think the community is trying to decide how much do we support centralized platforms, for example, for the ROI they give us? Should we do it a little bit only for onboarding? And then hopefully once they get onboarded, they'll be like, okay, welcome to the world of DeFi. You don't need that at centralized exchange anymore, only for buying it or something, or if you want to do that. But like everything else, once you get in your own wallet and figure this stuff out, I mean, that's all you need from there. I suspect if that ends up being the conclusion, if we look back, if it happens and we look back and say, you know, oh, it was that obvious, like I wouldn't be surprised if that's the result.
Yeah. Well, I honestly see the value with like listing Pulse on centralized exchanges, because there's really like nothing more to it. I mean, aside from being able to like run a node, I guess, and do that type of stuff. See, that's the thing is like, if you're actually going to participate in the network, like you're going to bridge, like you're going to go on chain and you're going to do things that way. However, if you're not, like, you would rather just stick to the centralized exchange and buy it that way and have your exposure and, you know, take your profits whenever you're going to. So yeah, I do see the value of that, as long as like, for me, it's like, as long as you're just keeping it like PulseChain and like having a small amount of that supply actually existing on centralized sources, to me, that's where, you know, the best thing possible can take place, because then you can tap into it. but then you can also, you know, keep things true DeFi at the same time. So when I'm looking at things, I think that as long as we just are aware of that and don't get too like gung-ho with like, oh, PulseX needs to be here, this needs to be here, because, you know, there's certain functions that just don't necessarily work if it's the exchange selling, like trading the tokens to their own customers, like the buy burn and things like that.
Right.
So there's certain things that just don't actually work like in DeFi unless it is on chain. So that's my only thing, is like, as long as we're just all aware about those things, like I don't really have that much of an issue with like a Pulse listing, because I do see the need for bringing liquidity on chain, and there has to be certain ways to do that, because as it stands right now, like, you know, there's still not like the greatest on ramps. Like, you know, ultimately, like we are working on some stuff right now to help fix a lot of that, fix a lot of those issues with like bridging funds over here, because I want to focus more on like, you know, I'm not going to try and petition towards centralized exchange adoption. I'm going to petition towards building a decentralized alternative. That to me is just more along the lines with like where I resonate with. So it's like, you know, everybody's to each their own. Everybody has their own place in the ecosystem. Like if you're, you know, an influencer, if you're a builder, if you're this or that, it doesn't really matter. Everybody has their own place. And it's like, for me, I'm in a unique position where I can pretty much like build alternatives that like could actually like help keep things real DeFi, but then still bring liquidity from other places. And that to me is where I have value, and I can like really, you know, implement that into PulseChain. So that's what I'm doing. Somebody else might have centralized exchange connections where they could easily get things listed. And if that's the case, you know, having a Pulse listing isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. It's just that, you know, there needs to be people that are going out there and actually bringing, like, at the end of the day, it's up to the community whether money comes on or whether it doesn't. And it's the people that are willing to take the initiative to go out and make it happen that are going to be the ones that make it happen. So I just think that that's the biggest thing, is just be one of the people that do something.
I would think, I suspect that having a centralized exchange listing, whether it's with Mexi or any other place, I suspect it would bring more people into DeFi than the other way around. I don't think it would push more people towards exchanges. I think it would bring more people from exchanges to DeFi if that was the trade-off we're making. Yeah.
Well, especially with Rick, he's
a
huge person, like constantly being an advocate towards like being on being decentralized, having your own keys. Like if you're on a centralized exchange, like you don't even own your keys, it's not your crypto, all that stuff. So, you know, like already I think that there's a good backing of people that are pushing that.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to show people too, if you're interested in the ecosystem, getting easy access to the apps, gorealdefi.com. I'll put it in the chat because we're going to take a look at the farms real quick. You've been farming any? You've been interested in that?
Honestly, I want to learn more about it, but my thing is like, I don't understand enough about the mathematics because I'm a high school dropout. So I'm always nervous about the impertinent loss because I don't know like what the best strategies would do. Would it be better to pair? For example, let's talk about the farm with okay, so like DAI and Pulse, if you were to farm that and earn ink, like what would be, is it less risk? Well, I mean, if the price of PulseChain rose, you would just be selling it, but then you'd also be farming ink at the same time. So that is the big thing, is the impertinent loss. I'm trying to wrap my head around it to see if it's even worth it, or if it's more worth it just to like hold the asset individually and not risk it.
Sir, I've got a playlist for you. It's Learn to Earn Farming. It'll tell you everything you need to know in depth. I did a couple of streams, or I did a stream a couple days or 5 days ago on it as well, and I got a video. But I mean, in general, each farm has different risks of impermanent loss. With stable coins, you know, if you're doing that, I think they're incentivized for a reason. You know, somebody's got 400x multipliers. You know, the farms want to bring in money to certain pairs that it's good for the ecosystem, but also as far as impermanent loss and stuff goes. Without going into many details and stuff, you can see a lot of people, there's a lot of liquidity, a lot of people participating in the Pulse and PulseX because maybe they don't care which one they have more of at the end of the day. Maybe they think they're all going to the moon, you know? So those, if one goes up, ratio changes, whatever, you may get more one or the other. With the stable coins and Pulse though, that's one where, okay, what if Pulse runs up a lot? You know, some people, you could say, oh, well, maybe I want to use that instead of market selling. I want to do like a solid selling strategy.
Right.
I eventually get more stable coins, and that's the bag I want to sell over time and collect the fees and ink and stuff too. Or ink in this case, no fees, V1 versus V2. So that could be a play, but also it could be dangerous because if you don't understand that, then maybe you put a bunch in and you're like, oh gosh, I got a bunch of stablecoin, but I lost out on all the gains that I would have got from just holding it, So that's stablecoins. Then you got
That's
the
smart
pools.
because you could sell out if you knew when you wanted to take profit. You could just sell out without having max slippage and all of that stuff. Especially if you were a whale or something like that, had like millions of dollars and needed to scale out. Like this theoretically would be the only way you could scale out without like wrecking the price.
That is one strategy people may employ and earn ink along the way as well. So that's kind of a cool part of the farms that a lot of people kind of either goes over their head or they're just like, I'm not too sure about. Again, it's not that it shouldn't go over anyone's head. A lot of the stuff this is my first time learning yield farming with PulseX. I never farmed before PulseX that I remember, and I was never interested in it. And then PulseX, I was like, oh, cool. There's this incentive token thing, and then especially
that's what's cool is you can get ink.
Yeah. Well, it was built that way. It was Richard didn't. There's a tweet I did a stream the other day on this tweet where he's like, we're thinking about incentive token, or we're thinking about another token or whatever you earn during the farms. It can't be PulseX though. It's got to be deflationary. That was like the gist of the message. So that's the cool thing about PulseX is deflationary, buy and burn, and also you can't earn it. You have to buy it. Or acquire it some way, but you can't earn it. Like it's always going to be going away. That's why we got almost 4% burn just a few months after launch with, a drop in huge volume for a long period of time too. I was talking to Neil for T-Shares, another guy you should talk to too if you haven't met him already from the Tetra project. We were talking about like what is the PulseX burn going to look like? At the end of the next bull run, is it going to be dare I say 50%? Like how much of the supply is going to be gone just by people using the deck so much and all the liquidity and all the plays and all the burning? 50% sounds pretty high, but I don't know, like what kind of run are we going to have? Was it 20%? That's still pretty good, burning 20% of the tokens of the entire supply and all that stuff. So the tokenomics are amazing here.
They really are. And that's really why I've stuck around too, is like, I still don't agree with a lot of the things Richard Hart does. And I still don't like him in a lot of ways. But the truth of the matter is I'm still able to like put past like personal biases, and I'm still able to see like deeper value. And like, there's not a founder out there that's trying to buy back and pump his own tokens. Not only that, but they're deflationary to like the maximum degree to where like, if there's actually a good amount of liquidity that goes through these things, supply is just going to get sucked off the entire market. So when you're factoring in all of this stuff, like it really is set to make people profit. And that to me is the only reason I'm in crypto, is to profit, like, and to see other people profit. That's literally why I'm here. So, like when I'm looking for an ecosystem that does that, I really think that this one is just absolutely prime for all of those things. So that's, regardless of my opinions and regardless of anybody's opinions about Richard Hart, that's the issue, is they're unwilling to continue to look past those things. Like I'm going to definitely like continue to like disagree with things that he says moving forward, but like that's normal. Like not everybody is going to agree about the same things. And, for me, I'm not like a maxi in any sort of sense. I like multiple chains. And this is just one of those chains that I think is highly valuable because, ink is my favorite token in the, I like the charts, right? That's always my thing. I'm always looking at the charts, and when I first came over here and found ink, I was like, man, this is the coolest looking token I've ever seen. Like it looked so bullish, and yeah, it's pretty much just continued to be more bullish than anything. So I think it's just going to do really, really well, and it's going to surprise people. And, I think the other tokens will do really well too, but this one has just always been the one that I've had my eye on the most because it does the least, yet it's just got the most gains at the same time. Like it really kind of is just your typical meme, but it's not a meme because like, you have to participate in the network, which is the beauty of it all. Like I really do think that this is a cool network and a cool ecosystem that Richard created.
Yeah, I mean, I've never bought into the dump token narrative. Like I know that's the traditional way of a lot of other platforms, but I always knew ink couldn't be just a dump token in a traditional sense, because if it's not valuable, nobody's going to put up LP in yield farm to earn it. Like you can't say, hey, come to PulseX and earn $5 a day. Like you're not onboarding anyone. Like nobody's doing that. Like there's not even opportunity cost. There's no opportunity cost at all. Like, but if you say, hey, come to PulseX, you can earn $50 a day. Hey, that's a different story, man. Like ink's valuable. You can earn $50 a day. There'll be some people playing with PulseX. There are going to be people investing in PulseX like that. That's an obvious opportunity, right?
Yeah, that's what's interesting is if you get all of your buying power now, if you were accumulating while we were at these lows or even like during this recent breakout, like when all of these markets go up significantly, like the amount of yield you'll be able to generate. And well, actually, a lot of that's better now because of the fact there's not so much competition. Like things will vary to a big degree when like there's a lot more liquidity in the market, and so like you might like you get a lot more of the degens that are over here like just trying to mess around with like obscure LPs that are just like like earning yield farming to the maximum degree, like how it was in DeFi summer of 2020. But right now is the real opportunity with a lot of that stuff. I think like APIs are just out of like off the freaking charts, and you can generate a lot by doing so. And I, believe that these things are going to be up a lot more in price, big picture from where they are today. So, I mean, that's just what it's kind of one of those things where it's smart to participate in some of this stuff. But my thing is I haven't participated in it because I don't do it if I don't feel like I understand it enough. And that was really my only reason for not participating in some of the yield farms. But like ink itself is, generating so much that it's just like a hard thing to pass up.
Dude, it is. It's and I think Richard hit on the head the other day when he was saying, hey, some people, believe that ink is leverage on Pulse and PulseX. The chart certainly looks that way. It went up harder than everything else. It went down harder than everything else. And then now it went up again more than everything else. Like it's hard to ignore,
Yeah, no, it's literally like a 3x leverage token or something on Pulse, or like a 2x leverage token. I mean, I knew that it was going to do that. That was when I didn't know what ink even was until like it was like a couple weeks after I made my initial tweets about like the charts, and I didn't even cover ink because I didn't know it even existed. And so then some people told me about ink, and I went and looked at the chart, and it was right when it very first started breaking out, and there was more volume on the DAI chart than it even existed in the all-time highs, which was like 70 or 80x away. And I was like, what in the hell? Like, this is the most like disproportionate sell-off I've ever seen. Like, this thing's gonna rocket. And so I saw that, and that was why I liked it so much. And I remember finally making my first tweets about, or my first charts and stuff, and there was like a lot of people that were like, man, I can't believe that you would tell people to buy ink over this or over that, or this thing provides you this, or, and I was just like, man, like, look at the chart, look at the volume, like this thing's going to pump. And sure enough, like that's been, aside from that teddy bear coin, I think the ink has been my most profitable. Well, one of my most profitable plays over here. I'd have to like actually think about that, but I got an ink pretty early because I just really thought that it was going to take off. And then when I really understood ink from a greater perspective, dove into PulseX, like that's when it was like, oh man, ink is actually really cool and super, super unique and like basically first of its kind.
In a lot of ways it is. And it's first in the way of it needs to be like the founder has, the Hart's Law. We have all the liquidity promise of PulseChain. We have all these things that depend on, again, ink being valuable. It's like this. It's almost at a fundamental level. It's like it's like a fundamental level. Ink needs to be valuable for the entire ecosystem to flourish. I think you can make a case for that at least.
Yeah. Can you define Hart's Law?
The price of the, let's see, I'm going to butcher it if I just say it off the top of my head. Are you asking because you want a better definition, or are you asking because?
Well, I just want to better understand it myself.
Let's see. I mean, there's a ton of videos that will do a better job than me. But let's see. Actually, Richard's got a tweet here too. Basically, liquidity bonding will rise and fall together. But I'm trying to give you like a really good piece. Yeah, that's a big question. That's one that may take a video or two. But I think at a fundamental level, it's just the prices rise together. So I think we'll go up and down together by the liquidity bonding. So in the ecosystem, if we go back to the PulseX, we see what's bonded together a lot, right? Like we have like 68 million liquidity for Pulse and PulseX. We have a lot of the stablecoin bonding to Pulse, and we have ink. So that's another thing. Richard actually tweeted about this the other day. Around $100 million. Well, I mean, you got let's say 50 million. I think there's other pools and stuff too, but let's say 50 to $100 million of ink is bonded to Pulse and PulseX. So we talked about the leverage play and stuff too. In general, if something is bonded that heavily, if the ratios change, I actually did I was going to do a stream. I think I talked about this in the Pulse, in the yield farming stream too. I did a little bit of explanation around this, but when the ratios change, there's different ARB opportunities and stuff too within the pools. And it creates this incentive for the coins to go up. Now, it doesn't mean that if we're bonded, if Inc is bonded to Pulse and Pulse does a double, it doesn't mean Inc is going to do a double.
Yeah.
But there's different aspects. There's like, the liquidity adding can do, 2x and 4x and all this stuff too. But essentially, the ones that are bonded together can go up together and down together. And that's in this ecosystem. You see how heavily bonded Inc is with Pulse and PulseX and everything else. So those three coins, and even, Hex to a certain extent, Hex has, got, a fair amount of liquidity with Pulse, which is funny too, because I remember, have you met Alex from Hedron or know much about him? Okay. So he's
I've heard of him, but I don't know much.
Yeah. He's one of the big founders in the ecosystem, but I remember on the stream he did with Sloth a few months ago, he was talking about how everyone's like, oh, Hex is going down so much. But really it was only going down so much because Pulse was going down so much, because before it was bonded, Hex was mostly bonded with ETH and bonded with USDC and stuff like that. And then it got started to be bonded with PulseChain, and PulseChain, it went up a lot and then it went down a lot. So it was like, it wasn't that everyone was selling off Hex so much. I think there was even a rumor. I can't confirm this, but I thought somebody was even saying there's even days or time periods where there was so much, there was even like, I don't know if there was more buy pressure, but so much buy pressure, it didn't even make sense for Hex to go down. But Pulse was getting sold off so much that Hex was going down too. So Hex was just like this thing that has been kicked around for a few months, and now kicked pretty hard recently. But the liquidity bonding, the Hart's law came into effect on that too, which is pretty fascinating. But yeah, don't have a great definition, but I'll give you some examples, and there's a ton of videos. Yeah, does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, no, that was like, the thing was, I thought I pretty much understood it, but then like that, pretty much like explained all of the other bits and pieces that I was trying to gather. So
yeah, at a basic level, things that are bonded together tend to go up and down together a lot. That's like the overall thing. And now what effects that has based on different liquidity and pairs and network effect and liquidity amounts up and down. That's a great question for you and ChatGPT to like pair learn, which actually I use a lot. Like, do you use a lot? Do you use like AI assistants to help like bounce topics off of? I've been doing that a lot for crypto lately.
Like, what do you mean bounce top? I use it every day basically, but what do you mean like bounce topics? I'm curious to hear this perspective.
Yeah. For example, you could, let's go to like one of the mastermind class he just did in LP in this tweet. So if you feed like Claw.ai or ChatGPT or something, if you feed it like this one and be like, using this information, teach me about liquidity providing and how it works on Uniswap V2. Like, you could feed it this, ask that question, and then say, give me some examples, and it'll actually show you like, oh, like here's based on this context, here's how this works, here's what he's talking about, oh, and here's how this concept works. So I actually used it before I did the yield farming stream the other day. I was like trying to get some of my information, as accurate as possible, so I could talk about it, coherently. And I was, being like, hey, go deeper in this. Like, give me an example for this. Give me an example for this on the different, impermanent loss scenarios and stuff too. So super helpful for crypto concepts like that. Highly recommend it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've never thought about doing it like that, but no, I can see how that would be so useful. Because I'm thinking like, well, when I made my PulseX thread and I was trying to deep dive and understand PulseX, understand Inc, and try to understand how the whole thing works, and I was like breaking it down, all I was looking at was just other people's threads, and then just trying to like look at multiple ones and try and like connect all of the dots and stuff. But it would have been so much easier had I have just copied the whole thread and then pasted it into ChatGPT and said, explain this or summarize this and like give me the key points of this. And yeah, like even just asking AI things is so helpful, which is, I do that all the time. Like there's so much of a use for it and like so much you can learn. And that's why I love, like, there was this guy, it was probably a year ago, and he made this video talking about how he uses AI to write Twitter threads and how he was talking about exact writing like styles and like specific like the thing was, is it was like stuff that you would learn in school, like how to actually like format and revise something and do everything perfect. And he was telling ChatGPT to use these formats and then write these threads, and he was showing like exactly how he did it. And it was amazing, like how detailed it was, how accurate everything was, how quickly you can do it, and like how much people want to see your content now after you just made this big elaborate thread, even though you just used AI to do the whole thing. Not only that, but you're learning from it as you're going. So AI is just one of, I mean, it's literally like a map. It's like a calculator, but for life.
Dude, it's you know, with Go Real DeFi, I don't even write. So, you know, I've worked in big tech for a long time. I can code. I don't call myself a dev, but I can code. I've written websites and different scripts and apps and stuff like that before. But I don't even write them from scratch anymore. Like it doesn't make any sense to. I used to have templates and all this stuff I used to use. Now I want to write something, I go to ChatGPT or some other AI program. Like, hey, here's what I want to do. Like, give me some example code, and I'll look at it and be like, okay, here's, you know, implement this feature. I'll look at it, you know, run it, test it, and all this stuff. And then, okay, now I'll create maybe some more files. Maybe I'll do a little bit of the coding myself manually. But these days, I ask it to. So Go Real DeFi, I wrote the entire website pair programming. You know, I call it pair programming, like AI assisted, right, with ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, here's all the features. Like, give me this CSS styles. Give me, you know, write a function for this in JavaScript. Like, you know, you got to spend hours and hours doing it to refine it and get it correct. But man, it works. It saves a lot of time and did it better than I could manually. And it's literally like the 10x engineer type of thing. It is like using it for words and to like write stuff. That's kind of like the first level of, oh, cool, I can write something nicer, better, or more attractive, or thumbnails or whatever. But like if you don't even have much experience with code, like I got an advantage because, you know, I know how to code. I know what to ask for. I know the right questions to ask, so that can speed it up. But even if you don't know how to code, like you can build your own website using ChatGPT if you just, you know, take some time, take some practice, but you'll eventually get there. So it's
and that's really like you can like watch YouTube videos even of somebody that does know how to code and like does know how to do things, and then like just from them explaining things from a YouTube video, you could easily use ChatGPT to clean up the rest. Like I mean, it's crazy because like, could you imagine what you're going to be able to do in like 5 years from now? Like, it's going to get to the point where like programming will just be speaking to your computer, and like it'll just create whatever the heck you're wanting, like in your head. Be like, I need this website to do this. I need this type of hookup. I need this Web3 wallet. I need, you know, you're just explaining things, talking into a microphone, and all of a sudden your, you know, AI is just building you this multi-purpose blockchain that has full functionality. That to me is the beauty of AI. You know, there's some disadvantages with AI. Maybe it takes over the world. I don't know, but either way, it's definitely useful now.
There's some scary stuff too, but it's with everything. I mean, we haven't seen this kind of tech before. It can build skyscrapers. It can, you know, cause a lot of harm to people as well. Just with, you know, you got the deep fakes, and you got just, you know, it could start wars and stuff over things going viral. But I'm hoping we're able to get around it and it'd be a net positive, because it certainly just like 2 years into and stuff. Like have you seen the video on YouTuber without? They always take these celebrities and they ask them these questions and stuff. Have you seen those videos? But like the three paid apps I can't live without. For example, at least being a creator, YouTube Premium. I do not have time for ads. Like I come to YouTube, I come to Twitter for information. Synthesize it, bring it back, hopefully give it to you all, and it's worth, you know, whatever I pay for it, and even more. So YouTube Premium, ChatGPT, $20 a month. I would pay $100. I don't know what number I wouldn't pay for ChatGPT. Like it's that essential as far as like being better than Google with all kinds of different things and generating thumbnails for me and a lot of other stuff. And Canva.
Yeah, your thumbnails look dope, and I figure that you're using AI to generate them because they look cool.
Well, so the one I did for this one, funny enough, I haven't been doing a lot of the like the people's like faces. Like I put you on there, put me on there. That one. The one of me was AI generated, right? But I actually did all that manually. I did like space background. I took your picture from your thumbnail. I put mine on there. I was like, okay, I got to put something in the middle to hide the shoulders cutting off. Let me put the little rainbow tail thing. All right, let me put the PulseX logos and stuff. I did all that manually. Like
I could tell you did that manually. It was when you showed me the playlist of your videos for like it was one of these playlists. I don't remember. I saw it pop up and there was like 20 videos. I could tell all of those looked like they were AI.
Right. Yeah. So most of the live stream ones, I was going to do one today. I'm like, oh no, this a little bit. Yeah, I think for this episode, I'll do a manual one. But yeah, most of them are AI generated. Most of them I use I've been using ChatGPT for pretty much all of them. And if you got to get good at prompts, you got to say like, I'll be like, I'll basically have a template and say draw and then blank. And then with the hexagon,
like add layers over it.
Well, I'll say I think the prompt I use right now is like draw like, and then leave space to put whatever I want to draw at the point. In hexagon theme, in the gradient of these PulseChain, and I have like the CSS codes for the PulseChain colors and stuff, and as a YouTube thumbnail. And then I'll save that in the notepad or whatever, and I'll copy and then paste it into ChatGPT, and then the space where I'll describe what I want to draw, I'll type in it, and it'll be like draw, a rocket ship going to the moon with green laser eyes or whatever, and then enter, and then it'll give me one. I'll be like, oh, this kind of sucks, and then I'll say another one. It'll give me another one. This is a little bit better, but add a couple whales or sharks with diamonds in their eyes in or something, and it'll give me that. This one kind of sucks, and then another one, and then finally I'll find, oh, this is actually pretty good. I'll use that one, and that's how I've been generating thumbnails a lot these days.
That's pretty neat.
ChatGPT indispensable for learning crypto concepts, for rewriting stuff. Yeah, if I want to or if I want to fact check myself, actually, I've been using it on Twitter. I'll go to write a post or a comment or something about something technical. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, am I sure that's actually the way it works or whatever? And I'll copy it, put it in ChatGPT and say, is this accurate? And it'll either say, yes, this is the right word to use, or this is not the right word to use. Or I've been using it for that lately. So it's actually been super, super handy.
Wow. Now I know. Never get into a debate with Max on Twitter. He will use AI to wreck your soul.
I tend to, I've also talked about my principles. One of the principles is try not to say stupid things. And that goes figuratively and literally, yes.
Yeah, right.
And then Canva. I know, I imagine you use Canva?
No, actually. What is Canva?
Bro, Canva, I don't know, maybe you don't need it, but I think it's
I don't even pay for Chat GPT, actually. I just use the free version. Okay. So I'm actually lacking in a couple areas.
If you were looking to I think the paid version, it's just smarter in certain ways. It depends on what you're using it for. But Canva, I mean, I started out, this was my go-to. I don't know how I do streaming today without Canva. I do my thumbnails there. It has some AI features, but that's not the main thing. I've produced my first intro and outro. Like before the one I have now, I had one I did myself. I produced a whole video with music and stuff using Canva. What else? It's basically just like a really good image editor, but designed for social media and for YouTube specifically. It's really, really good. So Canva is like my go-to. It's indispensable for streaming for sure. So it sounds like you already got set up in other apps and stuff though, but I
use Photoshop. That's like I make all of my thumbnails from Photoshop. That's what I do. And then I use the free version of Chat GPT to make like Twitter threads and revise them, like make like descriptions for my YouTube videos and things like that. So I use pretty much, but that's the thing is like, I know that Chat GPT has all kinds of extra features if you pay for them. So I've actually been thinking about doing that anyways, but no, like I just never even actually heard of Canva. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, Canva is basically like, I guess you could think of it as a very lightweight web version of Photoshop, like a super lightweight, super basic version of what you would use Photoshop for a lot of times, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's for people who aren't like really like actual designers or like know how to use Photoshop, I guess you could say.
See, I had this figure. I just watched YouTube videos. Like honestly, I got started with paint.net, and because I couldn't afford Photoshop, I could only afford, like there was a period in my life where legitimately the only money I ever had was I'd go over to my grandma's house and she would slip me $40 out of her purse. Like she'd give me 220s, like all that. Like I wouldn't see her for a little bit. I'd come over like 2 weeks, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And like, I'd see her and like, I'd literally just go over there to hang out and see my grandparents, but she would always like insist on giving me $40. And so I'd use that $40 to like in a month, she made me do that. She might do that twice. I don't know. Anyways, I'd get my 40 to 60 or $80. And then I would use that to pay for my bill with like my Adobe Premiere bill. And then with the other money, I would just use that to live off whatever else I needed for that month. Cause like I didn't have a car or anything. So I was living in my mom's basement. And then it was throughout that entire period that like I was just trying to like basically build YouTube. But that was the thing, was paint.net with like some free plugins. And then once I figured out how to use those, I was like, wait, Photoshop is just what I'm doing right now, but it just already has the plugins built into it. So then I just went and paid for that. And so it was like I already knew how to use it from just switching over to paint.net. But yeah, to me, it's like my favorite part of YouTube is literally sitting there and taking a stupid picture in the window of myself, sending it to my email, putting it over onto Photoshop, and then just designing a thumbnail. Like I actually have more fun doing that than I do like even making the videos or anything.
Dude, it sounds like you got some skills that I love I always love the ability to learn something, and then you do it so much over time, you get really good at it, and you kind of forget where it even came from. It's just so natural to you that you're like, that's just what I do. That's just what I do. And then you're able to have so much success with it too. That's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But
there's old checks.
Yeah. I was gonna ask too. Like, well, first of all, before we get to that, we'll wrap up here. But also on Go World DeFi, if anyone, it's using the site too. If you notice, there's a buy crypto, there's learn to earn. Learn to earn has all the tutorials, all the playlists, all the check on all the airdrop, all that stuff. Buy crypto, click on this. It'll take you to a place to help you buy on the assets you're interested in. Hex Scout, have you ever seen a community website that's like this? Have you seen Hex Scout before? I guess first of all.
No, this thing looks nice.
It's amazing. It's really cool. It is the most beautiful portal I've ever seen for Hex, to do Hex stakes, to do ladders, to gawk at the Godwealth portfolio of his billions of Hex. It's amazing. I mean, of course, you can do your own portfolio and stuff here too. So Hex Scout, definitely a must look at for anyone using Hex. Want to set up ladders. If you click on Hex and Learn to Earn, it'll take you to start. And this is really good for onboarding people too. It'll show you like, what is Hex? What is staking? How to buy it? How to stake? Look at your different time frame. Like, what are you actually looking to do? Do you prioritize this over this? What's your investment? Like, how much you actually want to put into it? Anticipated growth. I mean, this place, other communities you've been in, is anyone making stuff like this?
Nope. Not that I no. Not well, not, like that's the thing, is like this community is so different because like yeah, like you just don't, as far as like people just going out and making certain like indexes and stuff like this, like they really don't have that aside. Like you've got like the big indexes that already exist, like the DeFi llamas, the dunes, and the like whatever the hell else, like they have kind of already existed. But when it comes to like other indexes, like no, like not really. Like it's just that was really why I liked the community so much, was because everything was being done by the community. Like they just built their own alternatives to everything.
It's amazing. Like this place, literally, I mean, Richard's whole thing is, you want to see something done, you do the work. You go do the work. Go have utility. Like that's what inspired me to start, being active in the community. Like I've been following him for 7 years now, before Hex, during all this stuff, and then but just only been active in the community the last couple of years. And really, I was inspired. Like I want to have more utility. Hex has given me so much. Now we have PulseChain and stuff too. Like I want to go out and like help people like get into the greatest ecosystem on earth. That inspired me. So like the whole you do the work thing, I don't think we'd have a community as strong and resilient and, have their ups and downs or whatever. But like there are people who they're Hexicans. Like they are red blooded. That's what they want. They found the product they like. They want to see this place succeed because they were empowered to go do the work and build stuff like this and everything else. Like I think that's cultivating that is so special, and it gets forgotten a lot of times too. Like we would never have stuff like this had that not been like the mantra of this place.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's really why, things are the way they are, which is also the drawbacks as well. Like the block explorer sucks. Like none of the other ones work very good either. And that would help so much to have something like that. And like, there's just that, like, it's the beauty of it all is that's how DeFi is supposed to work. It's how Bitcoin was built. It's how any decentralized network, like you got to just start building the stuff from the ground up. and it doesn't work if you have somebody that's like you're reliant upon somebody else to do everything for you. So, you know, there is a lot of value in that. It's just that now comes the time where it's like we really need to do our part by building things that work really well. Like, I mean, this stuff is awesome, especially your website with having all of that indexed and like know exactly where to find everything. Because I haven't found a better index than the one that you've created, because it's got literally everything. Shows like all of the stuff. So
I was asking about Hex Scout, but yeah, you're talking about Go Real DeFi. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that too, though.
What I was talking about. Yeah, see, like having these sort of things, like it's just so helpful, because like, you know, there's a lot of people trying to come over here, and if they don't have these resources, like they're 100% never going to come over here.
Yeah. I mean, I did my, like in the bear market too, I did my best. Like, what can I, assuming we don't have green candles, what can I do to make a contribution? How can I get people into crypto? How can I show them like what they're missing? And one of the projects I did was, okay, let's go produce a whole bunch of videos of like how to do every single thing in PulseChain and Hex and stake and PulseX and farm and trade and all that stuff. And this is when I onboard people, I send them to Go Real DeFi and I say, click onboarding, and it'll take you to the playlist of everything you need to know in order to get up to speed. So that's little contributions like that, I hope, go a long way.
Yeah, well, they definitely do. If you're a new guy not knowing where the heck to go, it definitely helps.
Yeah. One other question, I wrap up here in a second because I have an appointment. But man, great conversation. It's so good. It's really good to talk to you again. Hopefully, it's not the last time you come on. Or come on. I think you said you may be doing some live streaming on your channel. I'd love to come on your channel as well sometime. It's a great conversation.
For sure. You know, I'd love to. Vice versa. I'm going to definitely have you on my channel once I get everything squared away. Once I have my schedule opened up a little bit more, that's the point where I'm going to have, you know, everybody come over, and definitely want to have you on there, because you've got a lot of knowledge on the space, been here for a little while. I've already met you in person. I can attest that you're not here to, you know, scam me. No, I'm just kidding. But I can, no, you're
I don't even monetize the channel. I literally take as many, I will not take money from people. That is my thing. I will not, I do not, I've already taken enough. I want to give back. Like I try to, you know, stay by that mantra too. So hopefully if that makes me more trustworthy or just talking to me one, maybe that helps too. But like, yeah, I have a unique brand, and yeah, I want everyone to win. I want to turn this place from a zero sum game into like a positive sum place. That's what I'm hoping to do. And hopefully, you know, I inspire people to do that too. Not everyone do with it. Nothing against making money. I'm not anyone turn on monetization, do whatever you want. I'm just saying, like, my brand is, I prefer not.
Yeah, see, I got monetization to the max, so we're opposites in that regard.
How do we get along, man? How do we get along, Donovan? I don't understand. How can we have a good conversation being so different but so valuable at the same time?
Maybe you're secretly lying, and you're actually just sitting there right now, like seething through your teeth, like, oh, I hate this guy. He's such a scammer.
I'm gonna turn it on someday. Yeah. No, not at all.
Well, I mean, thankfully, I mean, that was the cool thing. I got to go to the conference, and I got or the PulseChain tour, and I got to actually meet people. And that was the first thing, was like, you know, I didn't really want to like set anything up until I met like people firsthand a little bit more. Well, specifically with coming onto my channel, that was like, okay, I don't know who these people are. I don't know if like I could actually trust them. So I'll go out there, meet them, hang out with them, see how they are. And then at that point, that was really where I was like, you know, there's a few, I mean, I didn't meet anybody that I didn't like. Everybody was just really down to earth. Everybody was awesome. But we had a really good conversation at the after party. And then I knew that we would have a good conversation if we were to stream together. And you're definitely one of the first people I want to bring over whenever I get everything set up. You know, that's one of the disadvantages with living clear out in BFE in the Rocky Mountains, is you got to like make sure the weather's right, and you got to make sure the satellite's tipped at the right direction. No, not really, but you never really know if the streaming quality is going to be ideal. So that's why I've never streamed. I'm always like nervous about that, but I'm going to get this thing set up, because, you know, I think that everything's pretty much going to work out just fine. So I'll let you know, keep you posted on all of that stuff. And I really do appreciate you having me on as well.
Of course, man. Of course. It's been a pleasure. Real quick before we go, you know, just to tie everything up, which one do you think is a better chart for onboarding new people to the community? New people. So this is the original eHex chart, full chart, you know, full chart there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is PulseChain Hex, full chart. What do you think new people, when they look at it, what is, you know, which one do they have least amount of skepticism of, I guess?
Yeah, definitely the the p-hex chart just because there's no price history. But for me, I love price history, which is why I always liked e-hex.
Right. It's see, if we were onboarding, if everyone just thought the way you did, it would be a perfect place. We could be like, you know what? Look, you pass IQ test, you're in. You know this thing's going to the moon. It's amazing, but yeah, average person, they're like, that looks like a rug pull. Oh my god, that looks painful. I don't want any part of that. This one, they're like, you know what? It's not so bad. Maybe not so bad.
Pumped yet? See, but then the issue is like, I always viewed it. I always told people that, I figured people would focus on e-hex because it has the prior chart. So it's like what people actually think. Like people think about, like the average person when they think of hex, they think of e-hex because that's like where everybody for the most part remembers Richard Hart from. So then it was like, I always said that people wouldn't value p-hex as much because of the fact it's a fork. So the average person from the outsider community would always value e-hex more. It's only the people on PulseChain that would value PulseChain hex more. And so that was always my belief. And I still think that that would have happened had he not fudded e-hex and like put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, at that point, because that was like his decision to bring all the liquidity to PulseChain. I think that was when he realized, hey, I can't send all of these at the same time. Like there's too many bag holders on e-hex. It's going to be way easier to pump this new thing with all the other projects. I think that if he would have bought the bottom of the market of ETH and like Bitcoin with the SAC funds, I think he could have pumped all of them. But I think that because he didn't buy the bottom of the market with the SAC funds and he had to buy in late, it didn't leave as much liquidity as there could have been to drive e-hex as well. So he had to make the decision to pivot towards PulseChain, obviously, because it's his ecosystem. I mean, like, it's just like what he felt like he had to do. So I think that, like, I still think the e-hex would have been the most valuable one because of the fact everybody else would have looked at e-hex first. However, now we're at this point where because he fudded e-hex, I don't think it was a good thing for p-hex, and I don't think it was necessarily a good thing for the other tokens in the ecosystem because, like, now from the outsider's perspective, I was always on the fence with hex because I was against staking. So then it was like, when he fudded e-hex, then I was like, okay, well, now I have even less of a reason never to buy p-hex or either hex. Like now I'm like for sure anti-hex. Like I wouldn't recommend anybody to hex personally unless you were trying to short-term trade it. So that, like, him doing that personally made me want to not talk about it. It made more people from the other communities that I came from look at him even more like negatively than they did before. So I don't know if there was another solution than him having to kill off e-hex and him doing it in the way that he did. I genuinely don't know if there was. So that's why I don't really know exactly what to think, but I'm speaking more objectively of like what has happened because of that from like a third person perspective, not so much like my opinion, just like this is like what I'm seeing happening in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, the hex has been through a lot. The pooled staking, I think it's still the narrative. If people who like staking, for example, the pooled staking on Ethereum still seems like it's got legs. There's still liquidity there. OA hasn't murdered the price. I think it'll still live on. My position is just it'll be in the backseat. Richard's like, you guys do whatever you want with Ethereum. I like PulseChain, and that's my statement. Had the effect it had, and I still love staking. I love ladders. I love the passive income piece of it, all that stuff too. But also, I'm not a trader. I'm not a TA that much either. So I have different way of looking at it too. But I think that there's so many things built on Hex, and I think this year in particular, especially when Hedron V2 comes out, I think Hedron's a big project. I don't know a lot about it, but it's something that's really fundamental and has made Hex exciting in a lot of different ways. It enabled a lot of features, expansion pack type of thing. We've already had Maximus Pool Party. But anyways, there's a lot of stuff building on Hex that makes it more exciting than just the Hex piece itself. And I'm excited to see that come to fruition this year too. So Hex looks beaten down right now. But I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised too, and more excited than what it looks like right now. But man, great conversation. Love to end it on that piece too. And got a lot of people watching. So everyone, thanks for joining us. Great to have Donovan on today, and hopefully we had a useful conversation. Again, Not putting any particular position on EX, PX. I've did like 6 streams on that already. And you guys know what I think already. And Donovan's told you what he thinks too. I think in general, everyone, people, I'm sure there's people who don't like PulseX. There's literally people in this ecosystem who are like PulseX down forever. Don't care about it. It's going to take forever. It's not going to make me any money. That sort of thing. Welcome to the party. Get in here, be positive, do some good work, share your opinions, be respectful, and we can all win together. Like, we can do that. You have an opportunity. That's the best place. That's the best part about this ecosystem. It gives you a fair shot. It gives me a fair shot. I never had that anywhere else. I've never had a fair shot except here, and it's a beautiful thing, man. So welcome to the party.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to be here. There's a great group of people. You're definitely one of them. And, I'm thankful to be a part of this community because I think that there's a lot of upside destined ahead. And, a lot of people are going to make some life-changing wealth. And that's why I'm here. That's why a lot of other people I talk to are here. And I've been able to do it for myself. And ultimately, that's why I want to, show you guys on YouTube, like how it's also possible for you. Like, there's a lot of upside potential in crypto, more upside than probably anything else out there. I've never seen anything. I'm only 26 and it's really all I know. So I can't really speak too much. But, when I look at other charts and other markets out there, like there really isn't anything that's ever been like crypto. And the opportunity we have to make life-changing amounts of wealth, I've done it for myself. My family's done it. Friends have done it. People on Twitter, YouTube, all of there's just a ton of people that have been able to do it. And I look forward to being able to see everybody else that's maybe your first or second cycle. You haven't really been able to do a whole lot up to this point. I get excited knowing you guys are going to be able to do the same things for yourselves for the first time, even if it's something minor, like, just getting out of debt for the first time, paying off some bills, like helping out your family. That was why I wanted why I wanted money in the first place. And I got to pay off my mom's house in the last cycle. That was like, not really like some giant life thing that I'd been like planning for by any means, but it was an opportunity that presented itself that I obviously jumped on. And that to me is the power of having money. And that to me is why I want other people to have money as well. Is like, you never know when, you're one medical bill away from like having your house yanked out from under you. You never know when like you're one family member death away from your whole life changing. Like things are, life's fragile. So the more money you have, the more opportunity you have. Money doesn't solve everything, but it sure as hell
solves
helps
many problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, and this year, like I said, no matter what ecosystem you're in, I wish you the maddest gains. I hope, our 4 coins on PulseChain. I hope Hex on Ethereum does well too. I mean, there's still a correlation. There's maybe a deeper discount, whatever. We'll see how the market works it out. But boy, it is this is a pretty cool place to be for sure. Donovan, DIY investing on YouTube, and you got Twitter. What are you on Twitter?
At Vajalarazzi. I know that you'll never get it.
God, that's
yeah. You'll never get it. Just look up DIY investing. Look up Donovan Jolly. I'll probably
just go to RHMax and see the retweet I did of him.
Right there. See, I look, if you look for me on Twitter and you see my profile picture, I look exactly like my profile picture. So you'll know right off the bat when you look me up. Like,
and he's got an amazing PulseChain hat as well. Yeah. Very cool stuff. All right, man. That's all we got for you, everyone. Scivive and 5555. We are out.